As county attorney, I took on many powerful special interests and corrupt individuals, and they retaliated with a witch hunt targeting my law license. Our system of justice has been destroyed.
That's former Maricopa County Attorney Andrew Thomas speaking out today, 24 hours after he lost his right to practice law in the state of Arizona. Good evening, everybody. Thomas was once the county's top prosecutor, but he was disbarred yesterday for trying to prosecute top county officials for political and personal reasons.
Thomas filed charges against 2 county officials and a judge, but those cases fell apart in court. And during today's news conference, Thomas defended his decision to pursue those cases. Steve Kraft was there. He joins us live. This was kind of chaotic over there, Steve.
Yeah, that is putting it mildly. It was chaotic. And the cases against Judge Gary Donahoe, of course, and Supervisors Mary Rose Wilcox and Don Stapley. Andrew Thomas says he was fighting crime, not playing politics. Now that he's looking at the loss of his law license, Mr. Thomas says he's not worried. God will take care of him and his family. No entourage for Andrew Thomas. He walked to his news conference all by his lonesome and had to compete with a rowdy crowd.
Okay, I'm going to begin.
Stop it!
Excuse me for a moment.
Stop it right now, you!
We are all...
Stop pushing me!
When the shouting subsided, Mr. Thomas declared himself the victim of a political witch hunt.
Okay. Arizona, after what happened yesterday, has become Mexico. The people of this community need to understand what happened yesterday when my law license was targeted.
Andrew Thomas says he is the victim of a rigged process. The powers that be teaming up to silence him, to frustrate his attempts to expose and root out corruption. Not only did the former, now disbarred, county attorney proclaim his innocence, he also compared himself to great dissidents of the past.
Other men, far greater than I, have gone to jail in defense of principles they believed in, and so that they would not kowtow to a corrupt order.
That's right.
People like Gandhi, people like Dr. King,
Right.
people like Solzhenitsyn, people like Thomas More, people who stood for something.
Gandhi?
And I will tell you that there are some things that are worth fighting for.
Then Mr. Thomas left, without saying whether he would appeal his disbarment. Now, the news conference took place in the shadow of the sheriff's office on the plaza next to the Wells Fargo building in downtown Phoenix. But Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who worked closely with Mr. Thomas for years, did not attend. Reporting live, Steve Kraft, Fox 10 News.
Thanks, Steve. Andrew Thomas's top prosecutor, Lisa Obashan, was also disbarred. She spoke at today's news conference, promising to fight on.
I will be filing an appeal and a request for stay. I have a lot of clients that have had a lot of faith in me and will continue to have faith in me.
Obashan said she had several grounds for appeal and also had a dig for the judge on the ethics panel, saying that he never bothered to even learn how to pronounce her name.
Unfortunately, Judge O'Neill didn't have the courtesy or the respect to learn how to pronounce my name throughout all the time.
I did my job. A lot of powerful people didn't like that.
During the courtyard press conference in downtown Phoenix today, Andrew Thomas responded to being disbarred.
Arizona continues to have some of the worst corruption in America, according to a recent...
You're an example!
At times, it was tough.
Perjury's a crime!
Allow me to speak, I ask.
Perjury is a crime!
Critics voicing their views interrupted several times before settling down and letting him speak.
Arizona, after what happened yesterday, has become Mexico.
Thomas compared the people behind the loss of his license to practice law to Mexican government officials and cited a dozen other public scandals where officials were not penalized. He said he would continue his quest privately to clean up corruption.
We now have a constitutional crisis in which prosecutors, members of the executive branch, are being targeted by the judiciary and other constitutional branch for blowing the whistle on corruption and misconduct in the judiciary.
Thomas wouldn't say if he plans to appeal being disbarred or if he has funding for it or has attorneys willing to represent him, but he did say we haven't heard the last of him.
I will have more to say in my forthcoming book as well.
Well, today's decision not only focuses on Andrew Thomas, but also on Sheriff Joe Arpaio's role in those county corruption investigations.
The Sheriff's Office and Thomas worked hand in hand on many of those controversial cases. ABC 15 investigator Dave Biscobing reached out to the Sheriff's Office today for reaction. And Dave, Sheriff Arpaio really remained relatively quiet today.
Well, the sheriff didn't come out with a comment for us on camera, but he did release a two-sentence statement. His critics had a lot more to say about today's decision and what should happen next.
Just minutes after the decision to disbar Andrew Thomas, at the bottom of the courthouse steps, the talk quickly shifted from Thomas to Sheriff Joe Arpaio.
Andrew Thomas now disbarred, and Sheriff Arpaio is the next big step.
The state bar decision against Thomas and his top aides is directly tied to multiple cases investigated and brought forward by Sheriff Arpaio's office. In fact, Arpaio was called to testify about the cases he and Thomas worked on together.
Conspiring with Lake County Attorney Thomas been disbarred. His chief guy, the person he trusted the most, Hendershot, he was forced to fire him just to protect his own position. So I think the type of pressure that's come on is unprecedented.
Arpaio is under investigation by the Department of Justice and FBI, and federal agents attended day after day of the hearings against Thomas. Critics say that could signal Arpaio will be next.
So that's not going to change.
Arpaio didn't speak publicly today. Instead, his spokesman issued this statement. As there are several lawsuits involving some of the same parties and issues involved in today's decision, it would be inappropriate for me to comment further. But his critics say eventually he will have to speak.
He will fall because you cannot violate justice in the manner that Andrew Thomas and Sheriff Arpaio have done.
I think he will not survive this because citizens are finally tired of the corruption.
Arpaio has been under federal investigation for more than 3 years. You can read the rest of the sheriff's statement on our website, abc15.com.
Sounds like this is far from over. We know you'll be covering it. Dave,
I'm not a crook.